As the Haruspex sprints through the streets of the steppe town, thirsty, hungry and tired, you must choose which of the strange town's citizens needs to be saved. For every path you take in these moments, another one closes to you. It is in these split-second choices that Icepick Lodge's reinvention of their cult classic reveals itself to be a masterful experiment in player choice and conflict, a game with no right answers, only choice. Pathologic 2 is a psychological horror and survival game released in 2019. Originally planned as a remake of the original 2005 game, it instead presents itself as a kind of reimagining. Acting as both its own work and a metatextual commentary of the original, Pathologic 2 presents as a theatre performance being acted by the citizens on the streets of a Russian steppe town in the early stages of a deadly plague. Like many survival horror games, Pathologic 2 implements survival mechanics such as hunger, thirst and exhaustion. In this case, however, these challenges are taken to their extreme, making the experience, in the words of its developers, almost unbearable. Along with the game's extreme difficulty comes a thematic focus on progress, or lack thereof, nature, dreams, duty, and growing up. These two aspects of Pathologic 2 work in tandem to create an experience in constant opposition to the player's goals, where every choice the player makes is a vital one. In turn, Icepick Lodge have created one of the most fully realised pieces of interactive fiction I have experienced, a game where choice and conflict are the main. From the town's architecturally impossible floating polyhedron, where the children mysteriously congregate, to its ancient abattoir, whose roots go deep into the earth, Pathologic 2 is in total and harmonious conflict with the player, thus producing an expertly crafted, painful, and often extremely cathartic reflection of our strange times. Pathologic is hardly unique in its choice to use survival mechanics. In recent years, it's become somewhat of a trend. What sets it apart from other games, however, is its total and focused implementation of these mechanics to the point where every decision the player makes is dictated by these ever-decreasing aspects of the Haruspex's life force. With this extreme difficulty, a world has been crafted where every system is fighting against you. Every act taken to sustain the Haruspex comes at the cost of vital information that may save this dying town. This is no clearer than in the game's treatment of time. Time in Pathologic 2 hangs over you like a specter. Every decision comes at the cost of time, and time will take. It will take lives, and it will take away opportunities. As quests can vanish as time passes, the decision to sleep can strip the Haruspex of information that could save thousands of lives. Not sleeping, however, will eventually kill him. In turn, the use of time in Pathologic 2 asks how willing you are to suffer in the name of progression. In this, the game's systems produce a world of pure conflict. The player is in constant battle with the world and the body. This conflict, however, rather than producing a disjointing and frustrating experience, makes the game almost harmonious in its mechanics. As with all games, these mechanics are realised by the choices and inputs made by the player. Yet here, as the mechanics are so harmonious in their attempt to punish the player's every move, every choice is a painful one and has potential to have dire consequences. Even taking a wrong turn can cost a life. Thereby, these survival mechanics work not only as a gameplay system, but to create a sense of inner conflict within the player, one that mirrors the mindset of the Haruspex as he desperately tries to save the town on Gorken. As the credits rolled on my 40 or so hours with the game, I was struck by how everything I had experienced thematically, like the game's mechanics, existed to create inner struggle within the player. The Haruspex is a surgeon, but also a spiritual leader. His wards are unable to grow up, yet seemingly are destined to inherit and rebuild their home. The town itself was made magical and inhuman by its connection to the earth, but destroyed by a plague born from it. Just as the game's mechanics are in constant battle with the player, forcing deep inner conflict at every turn, Pathologic 2 presents a thematic conflict between nature and progress, dreams and reality. It asks the player to consider if these things can exist together, and if we should even wish for such a thing. The game then posits multiple theses for the future, be it unrestricted progress or commitment to tradition and the myths of our past. Through this, the game asks deeply personal questions of the player about dreams, progress, and the future. These themes are skillfully presented through the game's metatextual framing, as every night the Haruspeck sees these debates play out before him on stage. Working in tandem with its punishing gameplay systems without ever forcing conclusions onto the player, creates an experience that so successfully simulates real-world inner conflict. Just as with the choice between a quest icon and food, there are no right answers here, just conflict, just your answer. Through these thematic oppositions that are reflected in the gameplay loop, Pathologic 2 artfully and effectively tells its story. Should we overcome death? Is progress worth abandoning tradition? Is tradition a rejection of progress? You could probably make the argument that Pathologic 2 argues that any number of these theses are the right one, but I don't think it's anything as concrete as that. Instead, as with the gameplay, the developers challenge you to make the choice. During his first day in the Step Town, the Haruspecks can meet with its wealthiest man, Big Vlad, who owns the town's economy, from the shops to its ominous abattoir. He also houses its workers. Before any talk of the sandpest has surfaced, it's revealed that he has put this hulking block of flats where these workers live under a sudden lockdown. To me, it's quite clear that Big Vlad and his family knew a plague was on its way and chose to secure their assets. With this in mind, it's quite difficult to not look back a year to a time when politicians and billionaires exclusively informed of the impact of coronavirus were to, like Big Vlad, securing their assets. Pathologic 2 then is an example of a game that could be called anti-escapism. Experiencing the sandpest in a world brought to a halt by its own pandemic can be painful, but it can also be darkly funny as you see the wealthy of this fictional world act equally as inhumane and uninterested towards the working class as they did in the world outside your window. Like folding ideas discussed in his essay on Contagion, Pathologic 2, despite its extremely current premise, can in some ways be comforting. In the UK in 2021, there isn't much you can do to fight coronavirus. You can stay at home, and you should stay at home, but there's every chance in a week you'll be told to go outside. In the Step Town, however, you can help. You might fail, you probably will fail, and you won't save everyone, but at least you can try. I'm not the first to notice this deeply affecting aspect of playing this game during a pandemic. The YouTuber Griff H has a fantastic video on it, and to me, the more I played Pathologic 2, I was simply astounded at how prophetic it is. People have described Pathologic 2 as a stress simulator. Some have even called it a misery simulator. Yet in these times, I think you could probably go as far as to describe it as an empathy simulator. If ever, for some reason, you wonder what those working on the front lines, in hospitals and elsewhere are going through, Pathologic 2's immensely painful design, I believe, can give you the tiniest glimpse into what some of these people are going through today. Not in some mystical and ominous Russian steppe town, but all over the world. This aspect isn't what makes Pathologic 2 great. It was already masterful before the world decided to end. Yet now, playing this game in context can be both heartbreaking and cathartic in equal measure. I can't stop thinking about Pathologic 2. Everything that Icepick Lodge has designed here seems to me to push towards the same goal, to craft gameplay and to tell a story that at every turn forces you to choose. It's really rare in my experience that a work of fiction is so focused in its approach. and it's even rarer that a game can utilise the potential of this extremely young art form. The feature set here is limited, and at its core you walk from one location to another and talk to people. Yet every step begs contemplation, as does every line of dialogue. And while I don't think I could ever produce a true analysis of this game in its totality, playing it now, at this strange and unprecedented time in our history, highlighted to me how effective of a product this is. I came away from Pathologic 2 amazed at how its mechanical systems work together with its themes to create a game that is never happy to decide for you. Instead, it asks you to choose at every turn, and just like in the real world, these choices never make everyone happy. To think that this game is only 1/3 done, with 2 more playthroughs on the way, is a very exciting prospect. I don't think everyone will enjoy Pathologic 2. Even with added difficulty sliders, it's very inaccessible. But I can't stop thinking about this game, and I think everyone should experience it in some way.